Welcome to the Unknown Options, the place where we explore the unknown options. My name is Will, and today I have with me Braden. Braden, it's great to have you here. We want to highlight the good, the bad, and the ugly. For someone who might not know, what is a physician assistant?
A physician assistant. So my kind of elevator answer to that question, if I had like a little elevator speech, I ask people, have you ever been to a doctor, but you didn't really see your doctor, but you got treated? It was probably PA or MP. So PA, you kind of have to, I'll give you a little background of PA. So like going back to World War II, we had all this advancements in medical technology, and doctors started kind of going more specialized and going from your mom and pop, like private doctor, family medicine place that you would go. They went more kind of like specialized in the hospitals, and hospitals are usually in big cities, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of took away from like the underserved rural area of America or the world where they weren't gaining as much healthcare. And so this doctor actually from Duke University came up with this kind of this profession to help bridge that gap, to help expand healthcare, kind of be an expansion of a physician. And he came up with a physician assistant program. So a physician assistant, we can prescribe, we can diagnose conditions, we can pretty much do everything a doctor would do, minus like we can't be without supervision. We have to be under a doctor. We can't do major surgeries. We don't have that kind of training, but we're more or less an extension of a physician and help provide healthcare and expand healthcare and give great care.
I love that answer. I love the history behind it too. How did you become started in becoming a PA?
Yeah, so I grew up, I watched many of your episodes, and it seems like a common theme is a lot of people started in sports, and I'm no different. So I started in sports. I was a pitcher in baseball. I actually had a shoulder injury that required surgery. And so I went through the whole gamut. So I saw a doctor, saw an orthopedic surgeon, got the surgery done, went through physical therapy. And, you know, I was a young, dumb teenager. So like baseball was my thing. All I know is baseball. But it was kind of a blessing in disguise because this really opened my eyes to the healthcare and the great care I received. And I ended up shadowing my orthopedic surgeon, ended up shadowing my physical therapist. And that really convinced me and exposed me to a career that I would like to pursue. So I went to college and I majored in exercise science and applied to PA school. And here we are.
I love it. I love it. Sports, like you said, a lot of people's I guess journey do begin in sports. And even I was telling you before we started, I work in sales, and a lot of the sales people that work in my organization, they're all not all, but a lot of them were D1 or D2 or D3 athletes. Right. They couldn't go to the league. they're like let's go to sales. So a lot of them came.
We're all washed up, man. Washed up professionals.
Hey, I mean, we need more people in all professions rather than just entertainment. So I mean, I commend you personally, and that ties right into our next question. Why are PAs important, and what do you guys contribute to the general public?
Right. So kind of just piggybacking off what I said earlier. So doctors are in high demand, and healthcare is an ever-ending product. Everybody needs healthcare. So I think PAs, like I said earlier, kind of bridge the gap between. So you have nurses and doctors, and before the PA profession was created, there was nothing in between. So say you live in a rural community and the nearest doctor is an hour away. Whereas a PA, I mean, we have to be under supervision of a doctor, but with today's technology, a doctor doesn't have to be physically there. They just have to be able to contact if we need them. So we can provide care in areas where healthcare may not be a readily available resource. Mm-hmm. And also, not only do we provide care to patients, we can help doctors. So doctors aren't always swamped with, I was working in cardiothoracic surgery this month, and a doctor may be in surgery and he may be messaged for a consult where he can't break scrub and halt the surgery and go see this patient that needs to be seen by him. And as a PA, I could go see them and provide care for them, diagnose them, and basically, be a very readily available source of healthcare that may not be there if there weren't any PAs.
I love it. I love that answer. I wanna go back a little bit. I know you said you injured your shoulder when you were in high school, and like that kind of crushed your dreams as far as baseball.
Yeah.
First of all, how did it feel for you? Because I know you probably had dreams going to the MLB. Like how did it feel to like those dreams, like not necessarily be shattered, but to be like, okay, I had to realign myself to something different. And then how did that like propel you into really going from exercise science to becoming a PA? Because there are a lot of people that want to study medicine. I know like the dropout rate is probably crazy, and I know the curriculum is probably even more insane. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so transitioning from like more of like an athlete role to an I don't know what I am role. You know what I mean? So like when you're growing up, like that's your identity. Like you're a baseball player, you're an athlete, you work out every day, you practice every day. Then all of a sudden it comes to a halt. And I remember, I mean, very distinctly just sitting there like, I don't know who I am. I mean, I was in college, so I go to class. Where do I find motivation? Where do I find my passion? Like I have to redirect pretty much every aspect of my life. So really it took talking to people, talking to my family, talking to healthcare professionals that I was striving to be. I mean, like where should I put my focus? And really the answer that I got from everybody was that find it in yourself. Like make sure this is what you want to do. Make sure this is your passion, because if you're going to do it the rest of your life, you better like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I really sat down and had that conversation with myself, and where am I going to find that motivation and passion? And it was my answer through helping people who had similar experiences with me, where, hey, like this is not only a detrimental physical injury, but detrimental spiritual injury, you know? So for me to kind of be on the reverse role of the experience I went through and be that provider and be that person to help guide you through and make sure you're going to be okay and do everything you want to do, that was where I found motivation to kind of redirect my life to become where I am now, basically.
I love it. Passion is so important. Uh, I'm gonna switch from our next question. Usually I ask like, is college like required to do what you do? Obviously it is. But I mean, we're in the world of social media, as you know, like the world is taken by storm by like Twitter, Instagram, now TikTok. And there's a lot of like pseudo health professionals. Can you just tell the people how important is like the curriculum that you guys go through to say that you're a medical professional? Because there's so many people that it's actually like crazy how people like think like they're doctors or PAs or even nurses like online. It's like they think the job is easy or the road to the job is easy.
Right. The road is definitely not easy by any stretch of the imagination. You really have to be dedicated. You have to be motivated and passionate about it. So to answer your question, there are what you call pseudo like health professionals out there, and a lot of the times it's completely false information, but a lot of the times it's accurate. They just don't have the license or the certification to treat or diagnose. So for example, like I saw you had a bodybuilder episode. They're experts, especially like they're experts. They know what they're talking about. Can they legally treat and diagnose? No, but do they have knowledge that they need to have, or can they help other people? For sure. Like there's no doubt about it. So it depends really like what your goals are. So if you want to treat and diagnose, you obviously have to be licensed and certified, and you would have to go to college and complete your boards and complete all the tests and the very rigorous curriculum. And yeah, I mean, so it's kind of like what do you want to do? And if you're going to be a consumer of information, it's also on you to do your research and make sure who you're talking to is valid. They know what they're talking about, and also research the topic yourself. Like there's plenty social media, but there's also plenty of like peer-reviewed studies and websites that are available to everybody. So it's ultimately on you.
I like it. It's accountability, really, like holding yourself accountable than holding them accountable to a, but more so holding yourself accountable, because like if you can consume knowledge, you should be able to like vet it too yourself. Honestly.
Right, and especially when it comes to your health, like you don't want to mess around with your health. You don't want to put something in your body that's going to be harmful. So, just research is very important.
Definitely, I love it. Okay, what's the barrier of entry to becoming a PA, and do you expect it to grow or decline in the future?
I think PA is going to take off. It's already taken off. There's a lot of, I guess, attractive qualities about the PA profession. Number one, you're a healthcare provider. The big downfall, you're not a doctor, right? So you're not the man. You're not the big guy. You're not the one. Like, he can supersede you. Like, I may think this, but he thinks that. We're going with him 100 times out of 100 times. But it's a master's degree, which is very less education and schoolwork than a doctorate. And there's no residencies. So for people that don't know, once you graduate med school, you have to go through a residency before you become like an attending or like a practicing doctor. So it's basically additional education, more like clinical experience, and kind of passing the boards at the end of that. So less education, less schoolwork. You are a licensed, certified professional like provider. So that's the attractive. And it's good. I think I looked the other day. I think it's the #2 healthcare job in the USA right now. And I think in the next 10 years, it's expected to grow like 28%. Like it's ridiculous. Like it's a very growing occupation for sure. And so my class, 96 students, I think the class before me was like 60. So, so like it's expanding, and a lot, 20 years ago, people had no idea what PAs were. And today, a lot of people still don't know, but it's more of like a household like role. Like when I say I'm a PA, people know what I am, versus maybe 20 years ago, but like, what's a PA? So I think it's definitely growing, and yeah, a lot of people are trying to pursue this career.
Definitely. Okay. With the growth of PAs, it's like 28% over the next 2 years. Do you think there's going to be a decline in doctors too?
I don't think so. Hopefully not. Hopefully not, because I need doctors to be a PA.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But no, I don't think so. I think with the growth of PAs, I think PAs will gain more autonomy. So like, for example, I alluded to, like, we don't have to have a physical physician on site. We just have to have one. And it's by state by state. States are different. I'm talking like South Carolina, which is where I live. We just need to have one remotely available for contact at all times. And during COVID, where the whole healthcare system was put on stress, to say the least, we gained more autonomy through that, because they needed healthcare providers, and they needed us to do stuff that we weren't legally allowed to do. So that kind of gave us autonomy. So I think with the growth and with the relevance of PAs, I think we'll gain more autonomy, but I don't think it'll affect the rate of doctors.
Okay, I love it. You brought up a good point there that I want to talk to you about. I mean, you're obviously very young, a young professional, very educated, very smart, obviously. How was being young and experiencing COVID, being a medical professional? Like, how was that experience?
So I wasn't practicing, or I wasn't in clinicals during COVID. I was in school, but I knew people and have talked to people that were part of that whole storm of the COVID pandemic. And it really put a strain. I mean, a lot of people left healthcare. A lot of people pursued different roles. I mean, they were working hours upon hours with most of the time not any additional compensation. And I mean, they put other people's well-being and spiritual well-being, physical well-being above their own, and it took a toll on them. And I think we're bouncing back pretty well, but it definitely put a hit on the healthcare system. And luckily, I guess not. Look, I would have helped if I could, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was in school, but yeah, it was it was definitely a hard time for healthcare providers of all professions, nurses, doctors, PAs, MPs, MAs, I mean, anything in the healthcare system. So
Definitely, yeah. It's definitely. I know from a patient perspective, my dad. I was telling you again before the show, he had a stroke, and I remember we couldn't even go into the hospital. Only one person go in per day, so it was like kind of crazy. My
right,
dad had a stroke, and he was in the ER, and only one was to go, and like for the whole. And like my mom would go at 7 in the morning, just like 7 p.m. Then I'll go the next day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It was crazy. It's like no,
right.
it was crazy for you guys even more so.
Yeah, I think just as a whole picture, I mean, yeah, I mean, I spoke to the healthcare system, but also like the patient and just everybody, even if you're not a patient, I mean, you couldn't even go outside of your house. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a weird time, a weird
Yeah.
stressful time.
Good thing, great thing that we've gone past it. I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen again, but you never know. Give us your day to day currently. I know you graduate on the 11th, but I know you've been doing some stuff. So give us your day to day right currently, and what maybe what it will evolve to once you graduate.
Right. So my day to day recently, well, I just finished clinicals, my last clinical rotation. So we would go through different specialties. So we had 9 specialties like emergency department, family medicine, general surgery, stuff like that. And this last rotation was an elective rotation. So we got to pick what specialty we wanted to work in. And hopefully that would give us a jump start to maybe the career that we want to pursue. So I chose cardiothoracic surgery. That's why I want to pursue a career. And so my day to day, basically, I'd wake up 4:45. I'd go see patients from 5:30 to 6 after getting settled in, and then we would have 3 or 4 operations or cases that day, and I would help out with those surgeries. And then afterwards, I would round. So rounding is a term for like you go see all the patients under your service in the hospital. So I would round with the residents, go to surgery, then I would round with the actual surgeons, and then I would help put in orders or any tests or medications that the patients may need. And at the end of the day, probably like 5 or 6 o'clock, I'd go home, study, and go to sleep and do it all over again.
Wow, that's a grind. For us less educated folks, what is cardiothoracic? Is that like heart, or what is that? Like, what is that set?
Yeah, so cardiothoracic. So cardio meaning heart, thoracic meaning the chest. So any surgery within the chest, basically. So if you think of heart surgery, that's cardiothoracic surgery. If you think of lung surgery, that's cardiothoracic surgery. So the body, it's weird. It's like divided into different regions. So like general surgery is more in the stomach and the abdomen. Cardiothoracic surgery is more in the chest. HENT, which is head, ears, eyes, nose, throat, is more like up here. But excluding the brain, that's neurosurgery. So to answer your question, CT surgery, cardiothoracic is divided into 2. So you have your cardiac surgeons and your thoracic surgeons, but they all operate within the chest.
I love it. I mean, that's like I wouldn't say dangerous, but obviously like very vital organs in those areas. Yeah. So like people, I know like a lot of people going through like very like traumatic events. How do you deal with that like emotional toll and still can like? Because I mean, like I'm imagining you use your brain a lot in this job. So how do you deal with the emotional toll and still stay focused? Because like medications, like you got to get like to the milligram. You know what I mean? Like it's like
right. No, it's definitely. And you bring up a good point. Like, so like having personable skills and be able to communicate and relate to these patients is just as much a part of the job as your medical knowledge. So I was on a thoracic service, so that's more lungs. So the majority of our patients are lung cancer patients, where we go in and pretty much take out the part of the lung that is involved with cancer. And as you could imagine, we call it the C word. C word is cancer. We don't like saying cancer. So as you could imagine, like talking to patients after they just found out they had cancer, like you have to be able to kind of be frank and upfront with them and don't, sugarcoat it or patients don't like that. So it's a balance of being frank and a balance of being compassionate. And not only with the patient, but with their family members who are 99% of the time with them. And so I remember just this one case, we went in to take out a cancer that we thought was isolated in the lung. We got in her chest, and it was involved in the chest wall, which categorizes it as metastatic cancer, and it's inoperable. And we had to abort the surgery, and the surgeon I wasn't a part of the conversation, but the surgeon had to go tell the family, like, hey, this is inoperable. It's not curative for the type of cancer she has, and she has to go under systemic cancer, and her prognosis is way, unfortunately, worse than we thought it was. So it definitely takes a toll on us, but honestly, we don't think about us, or at least when I was there for a short term, so I don't have a lot of experience on it. But as I could tell, the surgeons really put themselves aside and put the patients and family first, which is admirable to see. It was very, not only touching, but inspiring to watch. So it was a very eye-opening month or two for me. Yeah,
man, that's insane. Like, literally, like, I couldn't do it. That's because it's like being in the hospital. My dad's been in the hospital for a year now, and like he was in the neurosurgery, I guess, quadrant for a while.
right.
It's like I saw, not personally, but like I saw them partner on people like every other day, like passing away. So I'm like, these people are like, they have to be like emotionally drained, like to deal with this. Like people
Right.
like seeing someone alive one day, then like they're passed away the next day, then like having to give out those unfortunate speeches that their family members don't have a long time to live, and then have to deal with other people, and then probably erratic patients, and then, like it's probably a lot. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely there's bad sides of all jobs. I mean, there's definitely bad sides of healthcare, but there's also those times where you encounter a patient and they're so thankful. They're like almost to tears, like how happy they are, especially on the service I was on recently. I mean, these are lung cancer patients, and if we get it out, we follow them up with CT scans, but it's a lot of the patients, it's a curative operation. So the surgeons have cured them of cancer. And the way the patients, like when we tell them we think we got it all, or the surgeons tell them like they think they got it all, and the gratitude that comes from the patients, it really, it's a special moment. It is. It's an honor to be a part of and to watch that whole circumstance. But yeah, so with the bad, there's good, and we say white clouds and gray clouds in healthcare. Sometimes there's a gray cloud over you for what seems like forever, and then there's white clouds where there's it's all happiness and sunshine, and you're taking care of people and everybody's happy.
I love it. I love that analogy. Analogy is perfect. Okay, so that's a good note to switch to the not so speed round. Obviously, it's a not so speed round. We're gonna ask you a couple questions, and you can give us like a speedy answer or not so speedy answer. Doesn't matter. What are 4 words that describe a PA?
4 words that describe a PA. That's a good question. I would say dedicated, reliable. I would say, for not so like academic word, friendly. Like we that's a very important part of the job. And I'll say collaborative, because it's a team effort. So we're very collaborative with the doctors, with the nurses, and everybody on the healthcare team. So I would use those 4.
Okay, that's a good answer. What's a PA, a profession that is most like another profession that is most like?
I mean, the simple answer would be a doctor, minus the responsibilities they have that I kind of touched on. So I would say doctor, and I honestly compare being a healthcare professional to a mechanic, which is, when I tell people that, they're like, what? So I think of like doctors as taking care of machines with skin. You can't see the inside. You can't pop the hood and look at the engine like a mechanic can. Yeah. But it's the same concept. Like we diagnose problems and we try to fix it. So easy answer, doctor. More like in-depth answer, a mechanic.
Okay, I like it. We've mentioned the doctor PA I guess discussion a lot. Is there any like, how is that relationship usually between the doctors and the PAs? Like, cause I know at my job, it's like I'm at the low level, so it's like it's like I like represent like reps that are making like hundreds, you get millions of dollars a year. And like most of them are cool, but then you get some of them that are like, yo, like do what I say. What I say, do it. So how is that dynamic?
From my experience and the PAs that I've shadowed, and then also working as a PA student on clinicals, it's been great. I mean, doctors and the PAs and MPs, so PAs and MPs are kind of on the same level. MPs being nurse practitioners, we're both mid-level providers. And the relationship with the doctors that I've observed and experienced have been great. They work well together, and they usually give autonomy to the mid-level providers where they can. So like if a PA alluding to cardiothoracic service can go put a bedside chest tube in, they'll allow them to do that. So it's a good relationship from my experience.
Nice, I like that positivity. What does a world without PAs look like?
I would say less access to healthcare. Less access to healthcare, more, I guess, secluded or isolated regions that are underserved. Yeah, I think PAs are vital in expanding healthcare, and kind of it's like fingers going out. We're the fingers going out from the major cities and providing access to healthcare. So yeah.
I like it. Okay. I got a question. I just a random thought, because I know you were saying that if like doctors decline in growth in like the future, PAs might they'll gain more autonomy. What do you think there will ever be a time where PAs could like gain the qualities that they can't do now to the doctors? Like if there's like a drastic decline in like in practicing doctors, could PAs like would the health boards allow that, do you think, in the future, if there's like drastic decline in doctors?
Yeah, so the scope of practice of a PA is state by state. I don't know if the decline of doctors would allow PAs to do more. I think that would decrease the number of PAs, because we have to have a supervising physician. But I think as time goes, because PA, I mean, I think it was started in 1967 or something like that, mid to late 60s. So it's a new profession, relatively speaking. So I think as time goes on and PAs become more prominent in the healthcare teams and the treatment teams, that's when we'll gain autonomy.
Okay.
When we start, I guess, gaining trust with the general population, and I guess relevance of like being a PA. I guess that's when we'll start. And we can already do a lot. Don't get me wrong. We can do a lot. But that's when we can start gaining, I guess, more autonomy that we don't already have.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that. Okay. What's the worst stigma associated with PAs?
The worst stigma. What is a PA? Are you a doctor? Why aren't you a doctor? Did you go to med school? No is the answer to all that. So the worst stigma is when you walk into a patient. I don't want to put like maybe like an old-fashioned patient, regardless of the age, but like, old-fashioned patient. I walk in, hey, I'm Braden, I'm a PA. Like I'll be helping you out today. And what's a PA? I want to see a doctor. So it's that type of stuff, where you kind of have to break down some barriers and try to, I guess, gain trust from the person that may be doubtful that you have the ability to help them. So that's the stigma is, what are you? Why aren't you a doctor?
Yeah. My mom, yeah, when you said that, I thought of my mom. My mom says that all the time. Like, I know she does. Like, I know she does. Like, God knows she does. That's funny. But yeah, it's people like value tradition more than anything. And it's like a doctor is traditional. So it's like even though, like you said, they've been around, PA has been around since like the 60s and mid 60s. It's like, people, I know I saw a PA a few years ago at my primary office, and it was a great experience. Like I didn't know the difference, honestly. I just went there. They're like, my doctor wasn't available, so like, you seen PA? I forgot what his name was, because it was like I was probably like early 20s. So I forgot what his name was, but it was a great experience. Like I don't know. I'm like, if he or she's working here, like I'm sure that I'm trying to qualify. Like they're not just hiring anybody. It makes no sense for me to question him. Like, bro.
And a lot of people have told me they prefer to see a PA because, and I don't want to talk. I'm not trying to talk bad about any profession, but we usually have more time than a doctor, generally speaking. Like that's a very big general statement, but we try, or at least I do, try to get to know the patient like on a personal level. We talk through it. Like I guess we have a lot of times more time to offer than a super busy doctor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, that's a big general statement. I know doctors also provide super well healthcare and give all the time they can, but that's usually what I hear from patients that say they prefer a PA.
Definitely. Okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean it makes sense. And then you have usually younger too, so it's like maybe more impassioned about your job.
Yeah. Or naively passionate.
hey, it's good. Passion is good no matter. Well, some passion is good, some passion isn't good in some roles. Are you underpaid or overpaid as a PA?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we're pretty well compensated, which I know is not probably a popular answer to that question. I think we are. I mean, if you look at our educational requirements, I mean, it's a master's. And I think the average, I haven't looked it up in a while. I think the median salary is above 6 figures for a PA. Now that also depends on the specialty and your day-to-day hours. I mean, I know some surgical PAs are on call and they work 60 hours a week and they'll probably say they're underpaid. But it depends. So it's a variable answer, but I think overall we're pretty well compensated.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is also an attractive quality of the profession. I think that's one of the reasons why it's growing so much.
Very true. You don't have all that med school debt, honestly.
Right.
What's a one person, book, or event that changed your life and why?
Oh wow. Can I give two answers? So when I was a didactic PA, so didactic means you're in the class. So didactic is the first year of PA school, so it's all classroom. Second year is your clinical year, so you're in the field working. So my didactic year, I shadowed a neurosurgeon, and I was trying to think of all these questions to ask him. Like he's like this brilliant surgeon, went through 7 years of residency. He operates on like the most vital organ in your body. I was like, what question should I ask him? And honestly, my question was, what's your work-life balance? Like, he had 4 kids and a wife, and he's doing brain surgery like 60, 70 hours a week and then following up on those patients. And he looked at me and he said, your job will take away as much as you will allow it to. And that really kind of, I mean, as a PA, I'm not a brain surgeon, but I'm seeing, I don't have any kids, but in the future, like, I mean, the medical field is very demanding, especially if you're a provider or any medical position. So that kind of gave me the outline of how I want to pursue my career in the future is, yes, that's my job and that's what I'm trained to do. But at the same time, I also have other personal circumstances as a family, my parents, friends, having a good time. And that really struck home with me. The second answer is, have you ever heard of Inky Johnson? You ever heard of him?
The name sounds so familiar, but I don't know.
So he's a pretty well-known motivational speaker, but he was a former Tennessee football player who was projected to be like this big, like first, second round draft pick, and he got hurt. And like his arm is paralyzed, so he couldn't play football, but he became a motivational speaker. And I remember one night I was studying for this test that I had no interest in. I think it was like, I don't know, like women's health or something like that. Not to talk bad about women's health, but that's not my passion.
Oh man.
And I had this test coming up, and I think it was like 1 a.m. at night, and I just couldn't find the motivation. And I clicked on TikTok, and this video popped up, and it was Inky Johnson, and he said, "Pressure is a privilege." So I was feeling all this pressure of like, I have this big test coming up. I don't really want to study. Like, I felt like I was under this huge amount of stress. And then when I heard that, it kind of realigned my perspective. Like, this is all privilege. Like, I am so blessed and privileged to be in this position. And that I took that with me. And I still think about that. I wouldn't say on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, at least. That really